I want to talk to you today about something that is very important for a lot of people, especially when you're on the buying side of the real estate transaction. And those are the top 5 seller mistakes that many people make, and I want to warn you about, so hopefully you can avoid falling into the same pitfalls that a lot of other folks seem to find themselves in. So number 1, maybe a little self-motivated here, is a reputable realtor. I can't tell you how many times I see people that use a real estate agent because maybe the real estate agent is part-time and they work with them, or it's their Aunt Betty or somebody they heard about because all real estate agents are the same, so let's just use them. This is probably the number 1 most critical sin that I see in the industry, is people not using the right agent. So for instance, if you're going to hunt for a real estate agent, you might look for somebody who's done 600 or more transactions, 3rd gen, 14 years in the business, and recently named Real of the Year, for instance, might be a good place to start. Number 2 mistake that I see people make as sellers, even as buyers too, but listening to the wrong people. Oftentimes, unfortunately, these are friends and family. And the thing about it is that these friends and family, they mean well, they're well-intentioned, but the problem is that they haven't sat down and listened to the research. They haven't looked at the statistics. They don't really even have a horse in the race, because if you make the wrong decision, they don't pay the price. And they don't have any skin in the game, so to speak. And that's really a big part of it, is that they're not invested in the process. So it's really easy to have a flippant opinion. So take some words of wisdom in that regard. And then neighbors. You know, a neighbor wants your house to sell for as much money as possible. So the thing I hear often is, you should ask for more money, your house is worth more, your house is great. Your neighbor is never going to tell you that, you know, they hate seeing your trash cans in the front of the house and that your dog poops in their yard, you know, or that your dog barks all night. So it's hard to give tough information. So oftentimes we see neighbors that overinflate because, again, they don't have the statistics, they don't have any skin in the game. You know, if your house is on the market for 6 months and it doesn't sell, or sells for under value, those are the 2 top ones that you have to really take with a grain of salt. Number 3 mistake that I see is the first buyer that comes to the table and is willing to put an offer in writing on your property is somebody that you really want to take seriously. Now, what I'm not saying is not the first buyer's first offer. What I'm talking about is the first buyer, because you can oftentimes get that first buyer up more than their initial offer. But if you can't get that deal to stick with the first guy, the only thing worse than the first buyer is the second buyer. So if you didn't like the first buyer's offer, or where we were able to get them to, I guarantee with literally 95% certainty, not 80% certainty, that if you rack up more days on market, the second buyer almost always comes in lower. For 10 years in the business, I could say that the second buyer is always worse, but every blue moon, and I mean like every 4 or 5 years, it happens, but it's extremely rare. Number 4 is prepare the house for the marketplace. You only get one chance to make a great first impression, so make sure it looks good from the very beginning, which also relays into photos of the property. I won't even go there, but that's a huge deal. The first 3 to 5 minutes are crucial with the home selling process. When the buyer walks in the door, when the buyer pulls in the drive, what do they see? What are their first impressions? You know, no buyer is going to fall in love with the house and then see your closets are unorganized and change their mind. You know, unless you're dealing with a 2-car garage versus an 8-car garage, nobody's going to walk into the garage and say, I love this house. Wait a second, you know, there's not enough pegboard. So those are not deal killers. It's the first 3 to 5 minutes, and it's preparing for those first 3 to 5 minutes, because that's typically when most people make their decision whether they're going to move forward or they're backing away from the house. Number 5, this is also great advice from my wife, luckily she'll never watch this, is focus on the logic, not the emotion. You know, we want to get the feedback on the property. We want to take into account what buyers are saying and not take it personally. It's very difficult to do. It's even difficult for me, and I don't even live in the house or own it, but the buyers, they don't care that that's where your children were raised, or that's where Fifi is buried in the yard or whatever. Focus on the logic, not the emotion. That's very, very important, especially when it comes to negotiating offers. I can't tell you how many deals I see that are jeopardized because people are fighting on principle and they're not fighting on the dollars and cents and the core facts of the equation. So keep this in mind, avoid these 5 mistakes, and you'll be tremendously better off. If I can help you anymore, don't hesitate to let me know, and I'm never too busy for your referrals. Thank you.